Hi everyone, my name is Charlie and today I have the Authortube in Practice and Theory tag. This tag was created by Stripped Cover Lit and I was tagged by Dane of Dane Reads and Emma of Emma Rosen Books. It's been a while since I was tagged by the two of them and I can't really remember the questions surrounding this, but I imagine it's going to go grand. The first question is, how do you normally start writing a poem? Please ignore my snoring dog. In terms of poetry, I usually have to write my way in, so I will have an idea of what I want to write about. I either write nonsense words until I come up with a first line, or I write what I imagine is going to be the first line and can work anywhere from one line to a verse, or write the entire poem and discover that only the middle section is required. So it's very much a spontaneous thing. How do you normally start writing a short story? And I haven't written short stories in years because personally I find them incredibly difficult. I suppose once again it's the same sort of thing as a poem, as I'd have a topic or an idea, or sometimes it was even just a character. I remember back at university I wanted to write about older characters then still, and so I wrote about a man who was married to death and decided to play a chess game, and I really do wish that I'd worked on that a bit more. And as I feel about most of the work I did at uni, I think that it could have been much more improved than what I was doing at the time. I have ideas for short stories, but I don't know that I'm ever going to actually go and work on them. How do you normally start writing a novel? I get ideas for novels all of the time, and it has been something that has happened to me since I was first starting out writing. So, well, not first starting out. When I first started writing novels when I was about 11, and as my friend Lindsay would tell you if she were around these parts, I used to flit from novel to novel constantly, and it would be a case of I'd write the start and it'd be a fast-paced start, but it never went anywhere. So nowadays, usually a novel has sat in my head for maybe 2 to 3 years. I mean, there's a novel I haven't written yet that I had the idea for in 2012. And I submitted a short story with the characters for my final year of uni. And then I've never actually gone on further to complete the novel. I did some really crappy version of it for NaNoWriMo, but to me, that doesn't work. So ideas percolate in my head for a very long time until I figured out the story. Sometimes I know that I'm just not ready to write something yet. So there is a lot of pre-planning in my head before I actually plan anything now, and it depends on what the story is. For the Doris books, it's usually I have an idea of what's going to happen in each chapter, and so I write a one-sentence line of each chapter, and then when it comes to writing, if I need to, I will write a bigger plan for just that story. In terms of other novels, let's talk about The Secret book here. I wrote an entire plan for that about 18 months before I started working on the book, and then I memorized the plan and what was going to happen, and then if there were changes I thought needed making along the way, I made them. If I ever release The Secret book, that'd be something to think about, because I have different ways of working depending on the story. Ever likely there'll be one story in the future where it just pops into my head and I'll write it in 2 weeks. That's the dream, actually, that I just figure out how to write a story in an extremely quick way of time, because currently my brain doesn't work that way. 4, do you have a writing strategy? I don't know what that means. Is it like a plan? Is it a way of going about your writing? I don't know. If we're talking about in terms of when I write, then currently there's not much writing going on. It's just in spare moments here and there. The entirety of Doris 2 was written mostly at night after everyone else had gone to bed, and I'd write a page after 11 o'clock. And then something made me incredibly angry towards the end of writing that book, because I was talking about how I was going slow with that, and then I was spurred on to write in a moment of anger and wrote 21,000 words over 3 days and finished the book because I was a bit miffed. If someone tells me what writing strategy means, I will give you a proper answer in the comments. Do you compose on paper or a computer? Doris 2 was written entirely by hand first, because it felt like the way that flowed the most was just to write it by hand, and I didn't get stuck in my head as much as putting it directly onto the computer. Also, I find that the comedic elements of the story I can think about when I'm writing by hand more. However, those last 21,000 words I was just talking about were written directly onto the computer. Secret book, I wrote 30,000 words by hand, and then if you watch my writing vlog from last year, I moved onto the computer and quickly finished that book in about 3 weeks because it just caught me unexpectedly. It depends on the story and how I feel like it's flowing, and whichever feels easiest for me to get my story across from my head to the page. You are allowed to claim one work of fiction as your own. What is it? With the risk of sounding controversial, can I say the Bible, because that seems to be a popular book? Also, we have to admit that that is a fictionalised version of possible historical events here. But personally, can I just not claim any of them? Can you keep all of your fictional works, please? I have enough to take credit for at this moment in time that I don't want someone coming to me and having a go at me about something they've read in something I didn't even write. That's the anxiety here. I've already had vegans come to me annoyed with some joke I made in Doris. I've had someone get annoyed about Coronation Street, you know? People like to get annoyed at me, and I don't really want to risk that again by claiming that I wrote Harry Potter or Piglet. Piglet's not a book. What am I thinking of? Babe the Sheep Pig. I don't want any of that. Keep them. Have them. They all wrote them. I don't want authorial rights to any books that aren't my own. Thank you. Goodbye. Good night. 7. Do you set goals? If so, how? I've tried setting deadlines in the past and they don't work for me, as documented in my video from when I first started this channel called On Deadlines. I find that they add a pressure to myself and I never meet them. I never meet deadlines. I write them and then I miss them. I wanted to finish the Doris novella by April the 30th, and instead I read Robin Hobb when I should have been writing, because I like writing to be relaxing. It has been a hobby and a pastime of mine for 20 years now, and I don't want to mar that by trying to make it something that seems like work. However, I know that certain people say that it should be a job, because if I want it to be my job, I have to treat it like a job. I set goals in terms of when I'd like to have a book finished or a book out, but these are all tentative goals, simply because I, again, don't want to pressure myself, because I could talk about this one day. I could talk about how I failed as an indie author. That might be a great topic one day, and it goes into how goals and deadlines and things just don't work for me. So, no, also, it's a very expensive business, is being an indie author, and so any goals I do set have to come with thinking about the financial aspect, and sometimes it just isn't going to work out. 8. Boom. You win the Nobel in literature. What is it that got you the award? I mean, clearly it is my great comedic timing and my writing of older characters, but actually it's probably going to be for a book that you have never heard of yet, you haven't read yet, and now that I figured out how to write it, if I ever do get around to writing that book, it will probably be that one, because this one has been sat in my head since 2014, and I have never written any of it down. I have an idea. I wrote a poem that I thought might inspire something in there when I first thought that a character may be a poet, but otherwise you haven't heard or seen of this book. Boom, you're a Nobel-winning millionaire. Where do you live? What do you drive? So I'm going to stick with my Toyota Yaris or some really cheap car, you know, doesn't cost a lot to run. And I would go and live somewhere that is secreted away, probably with woodland nearby. Yeah, basically I'm looking for like a cabin in the woods with Wi-Fi. I enjoy silence and solitude at my age, and I would like to get away from people sometimes, so that is exactly what I do. I try and be like Ron Swanson, off the grid, but with Wi-Fi. So, you know, I'm not that off the grid, but maybe I do it all under a pseudonym as well. Fake name, fake passport, all that fun stuff. May not even be in Britain. Next one, 10. Boom, you're in writer heaven. There are 5 writers in your writers group. Who are they and why? Okay, are we going with famous writers here? Or can I steal a few YouTubers? Also, can I steal writers that I already know? Because I find it difficult to talk to new people. I mean, when I went and saw J.K. Rowling in 2013, I ended up just staring at her smiling because the person in front of me had used the only question I could think of. You know, it's an idea never to meet your heroes, and also, like, now you're killing me. Like, we've gone through all this. We've gone through me now having a successful career, and you're killing me, and I suppose if I'm successful as well, but then maybe there is some animosity between me and other writers because they feel as though they needed the Nobel Prize in writing literature. In a strange turn of events, it is now a day later, because time works that way, and I still haven't answered the question as to what 5 people I would like to meet in writerly heaven. I mean, as I said yesterday, this tag has taken us into some strange, unexpected places in that it gave me success and then it robbed me of it immediately by killing me off and sending me to heaven, which means that I've now got to believe in some sort of deity in order to answer this question. And it's a struggle. It's a struggle trying to figure this out. I mean, last night, whilst I was thinking over this question, I began to consider Victoria Wood, because wouldn't I like to meet her in heaven? I mean, I would have liked to have met her whilst we were both living. She is one of my comedic idols. Again, I have idolised that woman since 1990-something. You know, my entire life has been inspired by Victoria Wood. That's a strange thing to say, a strange way to put it, but it's true. I have been rather fond of her comedy since I was a wee little one. So I suppose the fact that she's, alas alack and all that, not with us anymore, I would choose her because she's there already. So she might be able to introduce me in some fashion to some nice people she's hopefully met, if there is indeed a heaven for us both to attend. I mean, really, the amount of blasphemy I have spoken in the last 26 years probably lends it to myself that if there is any sort of God or religious truth, then I'm headed downhill fast. But we're thinking outside the box here, I think. And then I've still got 4 people to think of. Do I want to spend eternity with people I know? I mean, really, if we're thinking about this in the grand scheme of things, naturally, when you do go, you're going to want to spend time with your family. They're not writers, they're farmers, so we're probably, if they want to spend eternity farming, then I'm begging, because I don't want to spend eternity farming. Is this more like writing heroes? Is that a way to, like, look at this sort of thing? I feel like I'm at an awards ceremony and I'm trying to remember all the people to thank. Do you know what? I am going to shove my friend Lindsay in here. That's right, I've just killed me and I've killed my friend Lindsay, and we're going to have a brilliant time together. We're going to take her rightly friends and we're going to take my rightly friends, and we're not sticking to 5. We're having an effing menagerie up there. I've just killed me and all my friends, because they're writers too. and there's more than 5 of them. As I said yesterday, don't want to spend an eternity with J.K. Rowling, simply because never meet your heroes. This is difficult. Do you know what? Yeah, we're going to have Victoria Wood and we're going to have my friends. I'm going to, do you know, I'm going to we're going to put more J's in here. We are going to have Joanna Cannon there because I feel like we're on similar wavelengths most of the time. She is another writer who, since I first read this book, I've really wanted to meet her and chat, so why don't we just go and spend eternity in heaven discussing how she's a much better writer than I could ever be, but she's writing the sort of thing I wish I could write. And you know, let's have Joanne Harris there as well, because she could just talk us through her entire process, because she is a writer of many things and is just startlingly brilliant. Both these writers can do humour, so I know we're going to have fun up there. So yeah, I think I definitely got more than 5 people there now. There's more than 5 writers dead with me now. I mean, you've just made me kill writers that I like so that I can spend time with them. I feel like that's taking it too far. I feel like that's a bit Kathy Bates in Misery. I don't know what her name is. I just know, you know, there's the whole stalking, maiming type thing going on. And I ain't about that life. I'm also, you know, not about the whole religious life either. And does look like I'm praying. I'm not sorry about it. I imagine that I'm supposed to tag people in this sort of video, but frankly, the writers that I know have already done this and they tagged me in it. And so if you're a writer, an author-tuber, and you want to do this tag, feel free to have a go, but know that it's going to cause you to question your integrity, and it's going to cause you to hypothetically murder people just so that you can spend eternity with them. I ain't no Romeo and Juliet. I ain't about that life. And I'd already made decisions as to if there was a heaven who I wanted to spend time with. Also, as you previously saw me mention, solitude, kind of like that. Don't want an eternity on my own. That would be bad, but it's eternity. You know, like, I'm getting less than 100 years on this planet, but then I'm getting eternity elsewhere in some weird closed off dimension where I'm never going to be able to find out whether I outlived Coronation Street. That's my one aim in life, to outlive Coronation Street, and I don't think it's going to happen because Coronation Street. Anyway, I'm going to go now because I've probably got a lot of footage to edit somewhere, and frankly, I'm still not over what I've had to do in this video. Even if it was all hypothetical, it makes me feel very uncomfortable indeed. So, if you have enjoyed this video, if you want to discuss anything that I have mentioned, then please feel free to do so in the comments. I hope that you got something out of this video. Even if it was just some sort of sex hotline to fantasize over some weird fetish, then power to you. And until next time, that is all.